A quiet word on suffering. There comes a time in every life when we must stop running. Not because we have arrived somewhere, not because the journey is over, but because we finally understand that there was never anywhere to run to. The suffering we tried to escape has been with us all along. It was never behind us. It was never ahead. It was woven into the very fabric of being alive. I speak now not to those who still believe they can win. I speak to those who have lived long enough to know that life was never a battle to be won. It was something else entirely, something quieter, something harder to accept. You who are listening now, you have seen much. You have buried people you loved. You have watched your body betray you in small ways, then larger ones. You have lain awake in the dark hours wondering where the years went, why certain choices were made, whether it all meant anything at all. These are not new questions. Every human being who has ever lived past 60 has asked them. Every man and woman who has grown old has felt the weight of existence pressing down upon them, heavier with each passing year. But here is what I have come to understand, after spending a lifetime thinking about the nature of human existence. We suffer not because life is painful, but because we expect it to be something other than painful. Let me say that again, slowly, because it is the heart of everything. We suffer not because life is painful. We suffer because we expect it to be something other than painful. Pain is real. Pain is unavoidable. The body grows old and fails. Loved ones die. Health disappears. Certainty crumbles. These are facts of existence, as reliable as gravity, as inevitable as winter. But suffering is something we add to pain. Suffering is what happens when we meet the inevitable pain of life and say, "This should not be happening. This is unfair. This is not what I was promised. This is not how it was supposed to go." That resistance, that argument with reality, that is where suffering lives. Do you see the difference? The body aches. That is pain. But the voice in your mind that says, "I should not be in pain at this age," or "This pain means something is terribly wrong with my life," that voice creates suffering. A loved one dies. That is pain. The emptiness is real. The absence is real. But the voice that says, "I cannot survive this," or "Life is meaningless without them," that voice creates suffering. You look in the mirror and see an old face where a young one used to be. That is pain, the recognition of time's passage, the physical evidence of mortality. But the voice that says, "I have become worthless," or "My life is over," that voice creates suffering. I am not telling you that pain does not matter. I am not suggesting you should feel nothing. I am simply observing what has always been true. Pain is given to us by life, but suffering is something we create through our refusal to accept what is. And here is the terrible irony. The suffering we create trying to escape pain is often far worse than the pain itself. Think about this carefully. When you were younger, perhaps you believed that the point of life was to be happy. Perhaps you believed that if you worked hard enough, loved well enough, planned carefully enough, you could build a life where suffering was minimized, where pain was kept at bay, where everything would eventually be all right. I do not blame you for believing this. We are all taught to believe it. Society tells us that happiness is the goal. Religions promise us peace. Philosophers offer systems of thought meant to reduce suffering. Everyone is selling something that promises relief, but you have lived long enough now to know the truth. The truth is that life is not arranged for our happiness. Life is not arranged at all. It simply is. And in being what it is, it includes tremendous amounts of pain, loss, disappointment, and decline. This is not a flaw in the universe. This is not evidence that something has gone wrong. This is the fundamental nature of existence itself. I will tell you something that may sound dark, but which I believe to be liberating once you truly understand it. The expectation of happiness is the source of most of our misery. Listen to that again. The expectation of happiness is the source of most of our misery. We believe we are entitled to happiness. We believe that if we are not happy, something is wrong. We believe that our natural state should be contentment, ease, satisfaction. And so when we encounter the inevitable difficulties of life, and we always do, we experience them not just as pain, but as a violation, an injustice, an aberration. But what if we were never entitled to happiness? What if happiness was never the point at all? What if life is simply the experience of being conscious, and that experience necessarily includes pain? Because to have a body is to have something that ages. To form attachments is to create the possibility of loss. To be aware is to know that everything is temporary. You see, desire is the root of all our suffering. Not the pain itself, but our constant desire for something other than what is. We desire health, so illness becomes unbearable. We desire companionship, so loneliness becomes torture. We desire meaning, so meaninglessness becomes terrifying. We desire permanence, so change becomes a catastrophe. But health will fail. Companions will die or leave. Meaning may never arrive. And nothing at all is permanent. These are not tragedies. These are simply facts. A tragedy is when something happens that should not have happened. But aging is not a tragedy. It is the natural course of life. Death is not a tragedy. It is the inevitable conclusion of birth. Loneliness is not a tragedy. It is the unavoidable result of being a separate consciousness in a vast universe. When we call these things tragedies, we are arguing with reality itself, and reality does not negotiate. Now you might be thinking, is he telling me to give up? Is he saying I should feel nothing? Is he suggesting I stop caring about anything? No, that is not what I am saying. I am saying that there is a vast difference between experiencing pain and adding suffering to that pain through resistance and desire. I am saying that you can feel the pain of a failing body without telling yourself stories about how unfair it is. You can feel the grief of loss without believing you will never feel anything else again. You can experience loneliness without deciding it means you are worthless or unloved. The pain will be there, but the suffering, the layers upon layers of mental anguish we pile on top of the pain, that can be released. Not through effort, not through positive thinking, not through distracting yourself or pretending everything is fine, but through a simple, radical acceptance of what is. Let me speak now about aging, because I suspect many of you are confronting this directly. The body you have lived in for 6, 7, 8 decades is changing in ways you cannot control. It moves more slowly. It aches in places it never ached before. It forgets things. It refuses to do what you ask of it. It reminds you constantly of its mortality. This is painful. I will not pretend otherwise. The physical sensations are real. The limitations are real. The fear is real. But notice how much of the suffering comes not from the aging itself, but from your relationship to the aging. You look at your body and think, this is not the body I should have. This is not fair. I am being robbed of something that was mine. Other people age more gracefully. Other people remain healthy. Why is this happening to me? These thoughts create immense suffering because they are all forms of resistance. They are all ways of saying, reality should be different than it is. But it is not different. This is your body. This is your aging process. This is happening whether you accept it or not. The question is not whether you will age. You will age. The question is whether you will age with acceptance or with constant rebellion against the inevitable. One path leads to a kind of peace. The other leads to endless torment. I know which path seems easier at first. Rebellion feels powerful. Resistance feels like strength. Fighting against what is happening feels like you are doing something, maintaining some control, refusing to surrender. But after years of fighting, what do you have? The same aging body, the same limitations, the same mortality. And now, added to all of that, the exhaustion of constant battle against reality itself. There is another way. You can look at your aging body and simply observe it. You can notice the aches without the story that the aches mean you are broken. You can feel the fatigue without the belief that the fatigue means you have failed. You can see the wrinkles and the spots and the sagging skin and simply acknowledge, yes, this is what happens to bodies. This is not giving up. This is seeing clearly. And in that clear seeing, something extraordinary can happen. Not happiness. I am not promising happiness, but a kind of calm, a reduction in the layers of suffering that make everything harder than it needs to be. The pain of aging remains, but the suffering we add through resistance begins to fall away. Let me speak now about loss, because I know many of you carry grief. You have lost people. Parents, siblings, friends, perhaps a spouse, perhaps even a child. You have stood beside graves and felt the terrible finality of absence. You have returned to empty houses that used to be full. You have reached for someone who is no longer there. This pain is perhaps the deepest pain a human being can experience. I will not minimize it. I will not tell you it gets easier. I will not offer you false comfort. What I will tell you is this: grief is what love looks like when the object of love is gone. And because love is real, grief is real. It is not something to be overcome or worked through or gotten past. It is the natural response of a heart that attached itself to another being. But notice again the difference between the pain of loss and the suffering we add to it. The absence of the person you love is painful. The memories are painful. The longing is painful. This is the pain of loss, and it is real. But then we add layers. We tell ourselves we should be over it by now. We tell ourselves we will never be happy again. We tell ourselves that life is meaningless without them. We tell ourselves we should have done things differently, said different words, been a better person. These layers of thought create immense suffering on top of the already existing pain of loss. And they do not honor the person you lost. They do not bring them back. They do not make the love more real. They simply make your remaining days harder to bear. What if you could grieve without those layers? What if you could feel the pain of absence without the belief that you should not feel it? What if you could miss someone terribly without deciding that missing them means your life is over? What if you could carry grief as a permanent part of your landscape without letting it define everything else? This is not about moving on. This is not about healing in the way people usually mean that word. This is about allowing grief to be what it is, a testament to love, without adding suffering to grief through resistance and self-torment. The person is gone. That will not change. The pain of their absence will remain. But the way you relate to that pain can shift. Not through effort, but through acceptance. Through allowing what is to simply be what it is. Now let me speak about fear, because fear is perhaps the most constant companion in later life. Fear of illness, fear of pain, fear of dependence, fear of losing your mind, fear of becoming a burden, fear of dying badly, fear of dying alone. These fears are not irrational. They are based on real possibilities. The body does fail, disease does strike, independence is lost, death does come. But notice how the fear multiplies the suffering. You are not ill yet, but you fear illness, and so you suffer now from something that has not happened. You are not in terrible pain yet, but you fear pain, and so you torment yourself with imaginings. You are not alone yet, but you fear being alone, and so you experience loneliness even when surrounded by people. The fear of suffering creates suffering, often more suffering than the thing itself would create. I am not telling you not to be afraid. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty. But I am observing that when we let fear dominate our consciousness, we suffer twice. Once from the fear itself, and again from whatever we were afraid of, if it actually occurs. What would it mean to accept that these things might happen? Not to welcome them, not to invite them, but simply to accept that they are possibilities inherent in having a human body and a human life. Illness might come, it might not, but fearing it constantly does not prevent it, and only guarantees that you suffer, even if it never arrives. Pain might come, it might not, but dreading it does not protect you from it, and only ensures that you are never fully present in the moments when you are not in pain. Death will come, that is certain. But living in fear of death is a way of being partially dead already, of refusing the life you still have because you cannot bear to acknowledge its impermanence. There is a kind of strength in accepting our vulnerability, not the strength of denial or bravado, but the quiet strength of seeing clearly and not turning away. You are mortal. Your body will fail. You will lose more than you have already lost. You will experience pain. You will die. These are not pessimistic observations, they are simply true. And in accepting their truth, something becomes possible. Not happiness. I keep returning to this because it is important, but a kind of freedom. The freedom that comes from no longer fighting against the fundamental conditions of existence. You might be wondering now, what is the point of any of this? If life is suffering, if pain is inevitable, if death is certain, why continue at all? This is a reasonable question. It is the question that follows naturally from seeing life clearly without illusions. I will not give you a comforting answer because I do not believe there is one. I will not tell you that there is some hidden meaning that makes it all worthwhile. I will not tell you that your suffering serves some greater purpose. What I will tell you is this. The question itself arises from the same expectation that has caused so much suffering. The expectation that life should have a point. The expectation that existence should justify itself. The expectation that there should be some reason, some purpose, some meaning that makes everything acceptable. But what if there is no such meaning? What if life simply is, and that is all? Does that make it unbearable? Or does it paradoxically make it lighter? When you release the need for life to mean something, when you release the need for your suffering to serve some purpose, When you release the expectation that things should be different than they are, a strange thing happens. The burden lifts slightly. Not because anything has changed in the external world, not because the pain has gone away, but because you have stopped adding that extra layer of suffering, the suffering that comes from demanding that reality be something other than what it is. You can simply exist. You can simply be conscious. You can simply move through your days with whatever pain and difficulty they contain, without also carrying the weight of expectation, resentment, and resistance. This is not resignation in the defeated sense. This is not giving up. This is something else. This is clear-eyed acceptance of what is, combined with the recognition that your relationship to what is can change. Let me say something now that may seem paradoxical. Accepting suffering does not mean you stop taking action to reduce pain where it can be reduced. If you are ill, you still seek treatment. If you are in pain, you still take medicine. If you are lonely, you still reach out for connection. These are reasonable responses to pain, but you do them without the desperate grasping that says, "I must fix this or I cannot bear to exist." You do them without the resentment that says, "This should not be happening to me." You do them without the fantasy that says, "Once this is resolved, I will finally be happy." You do them as simple, practical responses to circumstances, with no guarantee that they will work, with no belief that working will solve the fundamental problem of existence. Because the fundamental problem of existence is not something to be solved. It is something to be lived through, day after day, year after year, until it ends. This may sound bleak to you. It may sound like I am offering you nothing, but I am offering you something. I am offering you the possibility of living without constantly fighting against reality. I am offering you the possibility of experiencing pain without adding layers of suffering to it. I am offering you the possibility of accepting your mortality without spending all your remaining time in terror of it. These are not small things. To live even one day with less suffering, not less pain, but less suffering, is significant. To experience grief without the added torment of believing you should not feel it. To face aging without the resentment of believing it should not be happening. To confront fear without the multiplication of terror that comes from resisting it. This changes the texture of existence. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in small ways, in quiet moments, you may find that life becomes slightly more bearable. Not because anything has changed, but because you have stopped demanding that it be different than it is. I want to speak now about solitude, because I know many of you are alone. Perhaps you have always been alone. Perhaps you were with someone for many years, and now they are gone. Perhaps you are surrounded by people but feel profoundly isolated nonetheless. Loneliness is painful. The desire for connection is deep in human nature. We are creatures who seek recognition, companionship, understanding. When these are absent, we suffer. But again, notice the layers we add. The simple fact of being alone is one thing, but we tell ourselves stories about what being alone means. We tell ourselves it means we are unlovable, or that we have failed, or that something is terribly wrong. We compare ourselves to people who seem less alone. We dwell on past relationships and wonder what went wrong. We imagine a future of increasing isolation and feel despair. These stories create suffering beyond the pain of simple aloneness. What if you could be alone without those stories? What if you could experience solitude as simply the state of not being with others without deciding it means something about your worth or your life's value? The loneliness would still hurt. The longing for connection would still be real, but you would not be adding all those layers of interpretation and judgment and fear. And in that space, something interesting might emerge. Not contentment necessarily, but a kind of quiet acceptance. The ability to be with yourself as you are, in whatever state you find yourself, without constant commentary about how it should be different. This is not easy. It may be one of the hardest things a human being can do. To simply be, without distraction, without denial, without the comfort of believing that circumstances will change and you will finally feel better. But it is possible. And it is, in some sense, the only real possibility available to us, because the circumstances may not change. You may remain alone. You may continue to age. You may lose more. You may face increasing difficulty. These are real possibilities. And preparing for them by cultivating acceptance now is not pessimism. It is wisdom. Let me return to something I said earlier, because I want you to understand it fully. Suffering is a choice. I do not mean that you choose to feel pain. Pain chooses you. Life chooses you. Circumstances choose you. But you do choose how you relate to what happens. You choose whether to resist or to accept. You choose whether to demand that reality be different or to see it as it is. You choose whether to add layers of interpretation and judgment to every experience or to let experiences simply be what they are. This choice is always available, even in the darkest moments, even in the most difficult circumstances, even when everything seems unbearable. You cannot always control what you feel, but you can notice what you are thinking. You can observe the ways your mind creates suffering by arguing with reality. And in that observation, there is the possibility of releasing that suffering. Not all at once, not permanently, but moment by moment, thought by thought. You can choose not to add suffering to pain. This is not a technique. This is not a practice. This is simply a way of being with what is. And it is available to you now, regardless of your circumstances. You do not need to wait for anything to change. You do not need to fix anything. You do not need to become a different person or have a different life. You can simply notice right now in this moment what is true. And you can notice what your mind is saying about what is true. And you can observe the difference between the two. The pain is true. The circumstances are true. The aging, the loss, the fear, the loneliness, these are true. But the story your mind tells about what these things mean, about what they say about you or your life or the universe, that is something else. That is the layer of suffering you can choose to release. Not by suppressing it, not by positive thinking, but by simply seeing it for what it is. A story, not a fact. A reaction, not reality. I know this is difficult. I know you may be sitting there thinking, easy for him to say. He does not know what I am going through. He does not understand how hard it is. You are right. I do not know your specific circumstances. I have not lived your specific life. But I have lived long enough and thought deeply enough about human existence to understand this. We all face the same fundamental conditions. We are all aging. We are all losing things. We are all moving toward death. We are all vulnerable to pain, illness, loneliness, and fear. These are not individual problems to be solved. These are the conditions of being human. And the only question that matters is, how will we be with these conditions? Will we spend our remaining time fighting against them, resenting them, wishing they were different? Or will we accept them as the price of consciousness, the cost of being alive, the unavoidable nature of existence itself? One way leads to endless suffering. The other way leads to not happiness, but something else, something quieter, something that might be called peace. Though even that word is too large, too promising. Perhaps we should just call it less suffering, less torment, less anguish, less of the terrible weight that comes from constantly demanding that reality be something it is not. Is that enough? Is that a worthy goal? I believe it is. I believe that to suffer less, even fractionally less, even for moments at a time, is worthwhile. Because the alternative is to suffer more. And there is already so much unavoidable pain in life that adding to it through resistance and desire seems to me unnecessary. Let me speak now about regret, because I suspect many of you carry it. You look back at your life and see choices you wish you had made differently, relationships you wish you had handled better, opportunities you wish you had taken, words you wish you had spoken or left unspoken. This is natural. Memory always shows us paths not taken, possibilities not pursued. The longer we live, the more of these accumulated what-ifs we carry. But regret is a form of suffering we add to the past. The past is gone. It cannot be changed. What happened, happened. What was done cannot be undone. What was said cannot be unsaid. These are facts, but we do not accept these facts. We argue with them. We replay scenarios in our minds where we made different choices. We tell ourselves that if only we had done things differently, our present would be better. Our suffering would be less. This creates tremendous pain, because we are essentially wishing that we were someone we were not, that we had known things we did not know, that we had possessed wisdom we did not yet possess. We are punishing our past selves for not being our present selves. Do you see how futile this is? You made the choices you made with the understanding you had at the time. You were a different person then. You knew less. You saw less clearly. You were driven by different fears and desires. You cannot change any of that now. You can only accept it, not by calling it good, not by pretending you would make the same choices again, but by acknowledging that those choices were made by a person who no longer exists, in circumstances that no longer exist, and that wishing they had been different is simply another form of arguing with reality. The past happened. That is all. It is not good or bad. It simply is. And you are here now, in the present, with whatever consequences followed from those past choices. This is your reality. This is your life. Regretting it does not change it. Regretting it only adds suffering to whatever pain already exists in your current circumstances. What if you could release that regret? Not by deciding the past was fine, but by accepting that it cannot be changed, and that punishing yourself for it serves no purpose. The pain of recognizing mistakes might remain, but the suffering of constantly revisiting them, constantly wishing they had been different, constantly tormenting yourself with alternate scenarios, that could be released. And in that release, a small amount of peace might be found. Not the peace of resolution, but the peace of no longer fighting a battle that cannot be won. Let me speak also about the future, because anxiety about what is to come is another form of suffering. You worry about what will happen to you, how much more will be lost, how much worse things will become, whether you will be able to bear what is coming. This is understandable. The future is uncertain, and uncertainty is frightening, especially when we have lived long enough to know that life often brings more loss than gain, more difficulty than ease. But notice that worrying about the future does not change the future. It only creates suffering in the present. You do not know what will happen. You imagine terrible things, but imagination is not prophecy. Many of the things you fear may never occur, and the things that do occur may be different than you imagined, or you may find you are capable of bearing them in ways you did not expect. But regardless of what happens, spending your present moments in fear of future moments is a way of refusing the only life you actually have, which is this moment, now. Not this moment and all future moments, just this moment. This is all that ever exists, this present instant. And if you are always projecting yourself forward into imagined futures, you are never actually alive in the only time that is real. I am not suggesting you do not plan or take reasonable precautions, but I am observing that anxiety about the future is a form of suffering that exists entirely in your mind, not in reality. Reality is just now, just this breath, just this moment of sitting or standing or lying down, just this sensation, this thought, this small window of consciousness that is all we ever truly possess. When you return to the present moment, much of the suffering falls away, because in this moment, perhaps things are bearable. Perhaps the catastrophe you fear is not actually happening right now. Perhaps what is real right now is simply this: breathing, existing, being conscious. That may not sound like much, but it is everything, because it is all there is. The past is gone. The future does not exist. There is only ever now. And if you can be with now as it is, without adding all the stories about what it means or what it will lead to, you may find that now is bearable, even when it contains pain. This is not a philosophy of happiness. This is a philosophy of endurance, of continuing, of being with what is, for as long as consciousness lasts. And that is enough. That is all that can be asked of us. To be conscious of existence with all its difficulty, and to not add unnecessary suffering through our resistance to what is. I want to be very clear about something, because I do not wish to be misunderstood. I am not telling you that you should not feel pain. I am not suggesting you suppress emotions or pretend things are fine when they are not. I am not advocating for a kind of stoic numbness when nothing touches you. Feel everything. Grieve, hurt, be afraid, be lonely, be angry. These are human responses to real circumstances. What I am suggesting is that you notice what you add to these feelings. Notice the stories, the interpretations, the demands that things be different. Notice how your mind takes pain and multiplies it through resistance and desire. And in noticing, there is the possibility of releasing what can be released. Not the pain itself, but the suffering we create around the pain. This is subtle. This is not a dramatic transformation, but over time, in small ways, it can change everything. Not by making you happy, but by making existence slightly more bearable. And in a life that contains as much difficulty as every life contains, slightly more bearable is significant. I spoke earlier of death, but let me return to it now because it is the final truth we must all face. You will die, perhaps soon, perhaps years from now, but it will happen. Everything you are will cease. Everything you have known will end. Everything you have accumulated, learned, loved, feared, hoped for, all of it will be gone. This is terrifying to contemplate. The complete cessation of self is perhaps the most difficult thing for consciousness to accept. But notice how much of the terror comes from resistance. From the belief that death should not happen, that it is wrong, that it is unfair. But death is not wrong. Death is simply the conclusion of birth. When you were born, you were guaranteed to die. One came with the other. They are inseparable. Everything that lives dies. This is not a flaw. This is the nature of life itself. What if you could accept your mortality fully? Not in a distant intellectual way, but deeply, viscerally, completely. Not welcoming death, not seeking it, but simply accepting it as what will happen, as inevitable as the aging you have already experienced, as certain as any fact that exists. In that acceptance, something shifts. The terror lessens, not because death becomes less real, but because you stop fighting against it. You stop treating it as an aberration, an injustice, a catastrophe. It is simply what happens. And knowing this, you can be with your remaining life differently, not rushing to accomplish things to give your life meaning before it ends, not desperately seeking happiness to justify the whole enterprise, but simply being conscious, for as long as consciousness lasts, with whatever that consciousness experiences. Pain, perhaps. Loss, certainly. Difficulty, unavoidably. But also moments of rest, moments of calm, moments where the suffering is less because you have stopped adding to it. These moments are not happiness, but they are something. They are what is possible. They are what is real. And they are available to you now. Not someday, when circumstances improve, not after something is fixed or resolved or understood, but now, in this moment. Whatever pain you are in, whatever loss you carry, whatever fear inhabits you, you can be with it without adding suffering to it. You can let it be what it is, no more, no less. You can release the demand that it be different. You can accept what is. This is not easy. This may be the hardest thing a human being can do. To simply accept reality as it is, without illusion, without hope, without the comfort of believing it will get better. But it is possible. And it is the only real freedom available to us. Not freedom from pain, but freedom from the suffering we add to pain through our refusal to accept it. I have spoken for a long time now, and perhaps you are weary. Perhaps you are thinking, what good are these words? What do they change? They change nothing. The pain remains. The circumstances remain. Life continues to be what it has always been. But perhaps you can hear, underneath all these words, a simple invitation. To stop fighting. Not to give up. Not to become passive or defeated. But to stop fighting against the fundamental nature of existence. To stop demanding that life be something it is not, and never was, and never will be. To simply be with what is. For as long as you are here, that is all. That is everything. The suffering you have been carrying is heavy. I know this. I am not minimizing your experience. But some of that weight is the weight of resistance, of expectation, of desire for things to be other than they are. That weight can be set down, not all at once, not forever, but moment by moment, you can choose not to pick it up. You can choose to feel pain without the story that the pain should not exist. You can choose to face loss without the belief that loss makes life meaningless. You can choose to be alone without deciding that aloneness means you have failed. You can choose to age, to hurt, to fear, to grieve, and to do all of this without adding suffering to what is already difficult. This is the only choice we have. And it is enough. It must be enough, because it is all there is. So I leave you with this. Life is suffering. This is true. But suffering is not all unavoidable pain. Much of it is what we add through our refusal to accept what is. And what we have added, we can release. Not into happiness, not into peace perhaps, but into a kind of clarity, a kind of calm, a slight lessening of the burden. And in that lessening, we can continue, we can endure. We can be conscious of existence for as long as we are given to be conscious, without demanding that consciousness be something other than it is. This is not much, but it is what is possible. And in the end, what is possible is all we ever have. The pain continues, the aging continues, the loss continues. Death comes closer. But the suffering, the layers we add, the resistance we maintain, the demands we make, these can be released. And in that release, there is something, not joy, not meaning, not purpose, just a slight lightness, a slight ease. The difference between carrying a burden and being crushed by it. That is what I offer you. That is all anyone can offer. The rest is up to you. To see clearly or to remain in illusion. To accept what is or to suffer endlessly from wishing it were different. To be with pain or to multiply pain through suffering. These are your choices. They are the only choices that exist. I hope you will choose to suffer less, not because it will make you happy, but because there is already so much unavoidable pain in life that adding to it seems to me like asking too much of ourselves. We can be gentle with ourselves in this way. We can stop demanding the impossible. We can accept our vulnerability, our mortality, our limitations. We can be human with all that entails, and we can be human without also being at war with the fact of our humanity. This is enough. It must be enough. It is all there is.